Hello, honorable members. You are welcome to this presentation, which will be on Microsoft PowerPoint. Now, what we're going to go through will include the explanation again. That will be a review of PowerPoint. Then we'll take down some kind of pertinent notes on some basic PowerPoint techniques. Then we'll discuss teaching with PowerPoint. So that's what we're going to go through, and at this segment we'll look at the presentation, then how to engage learners, then we'll try to analyze an educational model that can be incorporated in PowerPoint usage in teaching and learning processes. We'll also interrogate a research output on PowerPoint, that is what learners normally like about instructors' PowerPoint slides and what they don't also like. Then we'll learn how to use PowerPoint as a smartboard. Some of you might have heard of smartboard. Then we'll also learn how to break out linear presentations. So this is what we're going to go through for this particular lesson, and make sure you take time and go through every bit of the presentation and do activities that will be created on the online platform. Now let's look at PowerPoint in general. Most of you will be able to explain what PowerPoint is, but we can look at it as just a presentation application that can handle text. You can also outline with it. It has drawing tools that can help in drawing. It also have graphing tools. Then with PowerPoint you can insert clip arts, photos, video or audio. Now all these things are the fundamentals of PowerPoint. This presentation is not to show how to use PowerPoint. That's why the last time we met, that was last week, I asked those who cannot use PowerPoint to design a simple mathematics lesson, and we saw about 6 hands. So in addition to those that were absent, we have about 12 people, and I asked that the class rep manage the situation and take them through how to use PowerPoint to design simple mathematics lesson, and I will be inspecting that. Now let's look at some PowerPoint basics. Before you begin any PowerPoint formatting, you have to know your topic. You have to also identify your audience. Then how are you going to present the PowerPoint is also necessary. Is it going to be live or over the intranet or internet? Then when you are doing the designing, make sure the design will not take over your presentation, because PowerPoint is just to guide you to do your presentation. Then after formatting and doing a lot of reviews, you have to practice. And the literature talks about practicing in front of a mirror or a colleague who will tell you the problems with the presentation, or yourself, you watch yourself in a mirror and continue to practice until you know your topic, and that's how we'll give you the motivation and also give you the confidence of presenting your stuff. When we look at PowerPoint, business people normally use it more than those of us in education. So we're going to look at teaching with PowerPoint. Now, you may have many years of classroom experience as a student or as a teacher, and I'm sure, and you may not be familiar with so many technologies that can be used in the teaching and learning processes. So teaching with technology is one of the, and PowerPoint is one of the platforms that you can use in your classroom discourse. So with any ICT or technology, the way you will use PowerPoint will determine whether you're going to achieve any pedagogical effectiveness, in the sense that research shows that technology cannot make you to be a best or the best teacher, but it's just to help you to present your content in a manner that students can comprehend. Now, PowerPoint is an application tool that can help you present your materials in a classroom, and can also help you to encourage students to learn. Now, there are some kind of objects that one cannot send to the classroom to show to learners, and PowerPoint can be used to do that. PowerPoint can be used to do that. And when you are creating a course outline, PowerPoint is very useful when you want to give out course material online, like the one that you are viewing now. I might have decided not to do any presentation with it, then I'll give it to you. But this one I'm doing a presentation with it, and you have the video and you go through. Now, let's look at the presentation aspect when you are using PowerPoint in the teaching of concepts. You may decide to provide notes and print the notes out and use it during presentation. If they are also intended for your learners, you can do that before the real presentation. What it means is you can have detailed note that when you are presenting your concept, you refer to in even normal kind of presentation. When you are using PowerPoint, don't present as if you are presenting a research report, or you are defending a proposal, you are defending a thesis. Now, when you are using PowerPoint in teaching, during the presentation, try to provide keywords of concepts, and also try to include images when necessary, but make sure PowerPoint will not replace you as a presenter, in the sense that the learners will not listen to you. Then the PowerPoint now will be like the real presenter. And when you are presenting your concept, you must be able to pause and let some discussion take place. That can help learners to just have some kind of attention and get the concept. Some of the keys that you can press during presentation, we'll get to know the shortcuts even later on. One of them is B. During presentation, when you press the B key on your keyboard, it gives you a black screen that can pause and learners can be involved in the discussion. If you press it again, you come back. But if you want a white screen, you press W, then you pause the presentation, then discussion can take place. If you press W again, you are back to it. You can also do this pausing to just transition yourself into a new concept. Then with the presentation, because of power failure and the likes, make sure you have some kind of plan so that in case of power failure and other technical problems, you'll be able to still continue to do your presentation. Then when you are presenting, and because it is for teaching, you don't have to rush through your slides, and once you're doing that, it makes it difficult for learners to follow your presentation. So you have to take time and finish one slide, try to analyze it. You can use the pausing technique to let learners also be involved in the discussion. Now, when you are presenting a concept using PowerPoint, you need to engage learners. Now, the following techniques can be incorporated into PowerPoint presentation to increase interactivity and engagement between students and the instructor. Now take note that each technique can be projected as a separate PowerPoint slide. For example, you can have a slide that talks about this. Take a moment and reflect on a concept, maybe a typical concept like maybe a binomial theorem that you have just taught, and let them go through it. The minute you are engaging them. So we'll take out the following techniques, not exhaustive. The first one is opening question. You can project an opening question like the one I just spoke about. Take a moment to reflect on what have been discussed or taught today. You can also go for the think, pair, share technique. This think, pair, technique can be projected at different intervals of a presentation, and this allows students to concentrate on and discuss with their colleagues about what has been presented. So you can go by this approach. Think of what you know about blah blah blah. Turn to a partner and share your knowledge about blah blah. Share with the class what you have discussed with your partner. So this can take a slide, and you try to manage the situation. So in a typical lesson, you can have take, pair, share technique over and over again. Then another technique is focused listening. With this, it helps learners to recall pertinent information. So you can ask them, list as many blah 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 about what has been taught. But if the concept has nothing to do with listening, you don't use focused listening technique. Then brainstorming technique. This is much detailed than focused listening, and this technique stretches the mind, promotes deep thinking and recall of prior knowledge also. So you can ask, what do you know about this, and the likes. Then note check. If you want to find out whether learners are taking down correct notes, you can have the note check technique segment and go by this approach. For example, take a few minutes to compare notes with a partner. Then summarize the most important information. Identify and clarify any sticking point. Then you let one of them report about what he or she has written down. Then you can go by this technique also. If you could ask one last question, what will it be, particularly about what you have taught? That will let you know whether truly learners have been paying attention to what you have been teaching. Now let's look at student learning also with PowerPoint. Students learn more when materials are presented in short phrases rather than full paragraphs on a slide. Then if an instructor talks about the information on a slide rather than having students read it on their own, that also helps them to learn more. Then whenever you use relevant pictures, they are able to learn. Irrelevant ones will decrease learning. That even if you compare that to a slide with no picture, irrelevant pictures will decrease learning, and it depends on the level of the learners. Students also learn more when they take notes. That is if the instructor is not talking. But if the instructor is lecturing, note taking and listening is very difficult, so it will decrease note taking. Then also learners learn more whenever they are given the PowerPoint slides before any class. Now, educational model for PowerPoint presentation. A number of educational models could be applied to the design of a PowerPoint presentation for teaching and its integration into a classroom situation. Now, applying an explicit model provides a framework on which to base the design and a checklist of issues that the presentation should cover. There are so many models, but we are going to go through Robert Gagne's events of instruction here. So we have Gagne's events of instruction. Now, before we take the first one, Ganye identified 9 events of instruction corresponding to the learning processes. Although providing for each of these events will enhance learning, an instructor does not have to provide for each one. That's the 9 events. Students sometimes will supply these events themselves, especially more matured and successful students. Also, each event does not have to be supported by a presentation slide, so you need to look at it. Which event should I use a slide to hammer on it more? So let's look at gaining attention. That's the first event. Now, when students arrive at class, their attention is directed towards many other things. One student might be thinking about an assignment from a previous class. Another student might be struggling with a personal problem. Some students might be discussing weekend plans. So the purpose of this first event is to gain student attention and arouse their interest. One way to do this is with the kind of things that you can plan so that you can gain their attention. It can be a splash screen, or you can use a visual that is attracting to them. You can also speak loudly so that you gain their attention. After that, you inform learners about the objective of the lesson. That's the next event. Now, making the lesson objectives or unit goals explicit influences selective perception. Your students will have a better understanding of what they should attend to. It also may improve performance and feedback processes, since students will be able to better assess their learning achievement as instruction proceeds. So you have the objectives being stated. They will be able to now monitor their own learning and find out whether what they are going through they are actually following. Now, this event may also affect their choice of storage and retrieval schemes. For example, a student may say that he or she study differently for a course that includes objective type of exams than for a course that requires a long paper or project. So all these things, you the teacher will tell them, and the learner will look at the objectives and see how best he or she can learn. Then we have the stimulating recall of prior learning event. Now, often understanding new information requires an understanding or application of existing knowledge or skills. Sometimes we call this prerequisite. So before presenting new information, you have to stimulate recall of prior learning, and this makes knowledge more accessible in the working memory. Then after the stimulating recall of prior learning event, you go ahead to present the stimulus. So this is where many lessons begin. However, Ganye's work indicates that instruction will be more effective if we first gain attention and interest, inform the learner of objectives, and recall prior learning. Although we may believe everything we say or do in class is important, this event helps students focus on important ideas, ignore unnecessary details, and avoid distraction. So this is where you do the actual teaching. Now, the next event is providing learning guidance. And this event of instruction supports the internal process usually called semantic encoding. In familiar language, the instructional technique may be described as follows. Make the stimulus as meaningful as possible. So throughout a lesson, you can suggest meaningful organization of the material, such as presenting examples, relating new information to existing knowledge, providing images, and offering mnemonics. However, this can be provided near the end of your lesson after a new material has been presented as well. You can do that, providing learning guidance event. That's it. Then the next event is eliciting performance. Here, the learner is required to practice the new skill or behavior, providing an opportunity for learners to confirm their correct understanding. That's normally at the eliciting performance event. That's what happens. Students can be asked to respond by offering several examples. The repetition further increases the likelihood of retention. When you are teaching, your main aim is to make sure that learners retain whatever you are teaching. The next event is providing feedback. Now, eliciting performance event focus on the acquisition of new knowledge. That's new knowledge. But with providing feedback, the instructor provides feedback about the correctness of the performance that the learner has put across. So a shortcoming of some lesson is that no opportunity exists for learner performance and feedback, and this is often reserved for homework or exams, when no one will be immediately available to assist with problems and questions. However, including a few minutes of in-class practice tied to the lesson objective can help both the instructor and the student identify and correct misunderstandings. So we have to take note of this. Then the next event is assessing performance. At this point, the students have demonstrated that learning has occurred. However, a single performance does not ensure that the new capability has been reliably stored. Additional practice and performance are needed. This additional practice is often homework and graded text or project. Now let's look at the last event of instruction, that's enhancing retention and transfer. Once we are reasonably sure that the new capabilities are reliably stored, we can increase the likelihood that these capabilities will be retained over a long time period. So providing practice and space reviews is one of the ways to enhance retention. Additionally, transfer of knowledge and skills to new problems and situations is a goal of most instruction. Because of classroom time constraints, we often are not able to examine new ideas in a variety of contexts. Consequently, students may not recognize these ideas in new situations. So, providing practice variety, this may enhance the transfer of learning in different situations. So, Gagne's events of instruction can be incorporated in PowerPoint presentation, and is among one of the educational models that can be used in PowerPoint presentation. Now let's look at these research findings on what students don't like about instructors' PowerPoint slides and what they also like, so that when you are formatting your PowerPoint, you know how to go about it. Too many words on a slide, students complain that they don't like that. Then too many clip art, or some even complain they don't like clip art. Then movement, slide transition, or word animations, students don't like that. So you have to look at the kind of learners you have and how best you can use PowerPoint to present your content. Then they complain about templates that have too many colors. Now, what they like about instructors' PowerPoint slides will be discussed on the next slide. This research finding was by Adelma and Harris, 2016. They say that graphs increase their understanding of the content. Then when instructors have bulleted lists, it helps them to organize their own ideas. Then they also say that PowerPoint helps them to structure their understanding when the lesson is well structured. Then explanation of pictures, graphs help than written clarification. So they are saying that if they have a picture or a graph, that a verbal explanation is given on it is far better than written clarification. Okay, this same finding from Edelman and Harry. Now, using PowerPoint as a smartboard, and one may ask, what is a smartboard? A smartboard is an interactive whiteboard that uses touch detection for user input. For example, scrolling and right-clicking and the likes, in the same way as normal PC input devices. So during slideshow, you can make annotations. How do you do that? During slideshow, not slide formatting. First of all, after this demonstration, you can now practice on your own, and also we'll learn some shortcut of how to go about making annotations. So the technique is you right click, you go to pointer option. So if you want to use the laser pointer, you come here, click, and you want to use laser pointer to point on an item, so you do that. Right click, go to pointer option. You can use the pen. pen. You can change the color of the pen, so I can make annotation. I just can make annotation. You are teaching, you want to clarify on a word, you can use the annotation for the learners to see. You can use it to draw. Now if I right click and go to pointer option, I can go to arrows and pick automatic. So I've changed from the pen to the arrow. We'll learn shortcuts later on as we move on. I can go here, and if I want to highlight, I can select highlighter, and by default it's yellow. I can change the color by going to in color. I can select, let me just select blue, so I can highlight this you are teaching. And all this thing can be saved if you don't want to remove it, remove the annotations. I can change the color to green, can highlight. So this is for annotations and the likes. Those of you who are good in drawing and you want to just make some annotation on a diagram, you have the diagram already and you want to interact with the diagram with your learners, you can do that. If you want to clean the annotation one by one, then you use eraser. But if you want to clear all, you click on erase all ink on slide. If you don't want to save it, so I click on it, all ink on slide. If I want the pointer back, I right click, next arrows automatic, so I can move on to my next slide. Breaking out of linear presentations. Now when we look at our presentations, most of us have it in linear form. We arrange from slide 1 to slide 2, but we must be able to learn how to break out of the linear presentations. Now if you have more slides, this also means that more ideas will be covered. But you ask yourself, can learners keep up? So you have to look at how best you can fraction out the number of slides and what will go into it. It depends on the level at which you are teaching. Now during presentation, you can use changing navigation approach to break out linear presentations. So one of them is you can use action buttons, which is supposed to be used during the formatting. Is a shape, and you can also use hyperlink. So I'm sure by this time those of you who were taken through how to develop a PowerPoint presentation on a mathematics concept, you know how to use the action buttons or the hyperlinks. If you want to also break out of linear presentations, you must be able to start and stop and move around your presentation. You must be able to do that. I will learn some of the shortcuts that you can use to do that. So that is mastering on screen show. Now when you want to move to the next slide or the next animation, you can just press N to move it, or the enter or the space bar. This can move your presentation then to the next slide or the next animation. When you press P or backspace, it goes back. So this backspace I've pressed. If I press space bar, the next one, if I press P, it goes back. If I press enter, it counts. You can also use the arrow keys, which we'll discuss later on. You can also type a number and just press the enter key and to go to the number. Here, let me say the number that I want. I can go to show presenter view. We'll come back to that. So I am on number 18. If I want to go to 27, I type 27 and enter. So it takes me to slide 27. So I'll go back to 18. I type 18 and enter. I'm back to this slide 18. Let me remove the presenter view. We'll come back to it. Hide presenter view. So I move on. We've talked about the black screen. We've talked about the white screen also. This is what you can use to break out linear presentation. You can also press Ctrl P to get the pen. So I have the pen to make annotation. Ctrl P. When I want the arrow, I can just press Ctrl A, so the arrow comes. If I want to erase on screen annotation, I press Ctrl E. Then I come here and click, and it's gone. If I want the arrow back, Ctrl A, then I can continue. And I'm sure if I want to end this presentation, you press the escape key. Then if you want to know about other kind of shortcut, you just press F1. So I press F1. So you have them there. You can learn about other shortcuts. For example, if you press Ctrl T, you will view the taskbar. So if I press Ctrl T, I'll view the taskbar and I can make some kind of demonstration here also. So let's summarize this. Presenter view, I've just shown you the presenter view. Let's assume you have some concept that you don't want to load your slide. Then you put some kind of notes at the note pane during the formatting of your PowerPoint slides. Then during presentation, you now present using the presenter view. So whatever your audience are saying, you're also seeing in addition to your note. And that can help you, instead of maybe having a note which is accepted, you can have the note and the points are there. So to go to the presenter view, you right click, go to show presenter view. So let's see whether I have some notes. Let me just go back and see whether I have some notes that you see. Okay, so this is a note. There are some keystroke shortcut you can use while you are presenting. So this is just a shortcut here. So that's how you come to the presenter view. So from now I'll present using the presenter view until the end. The same movement, I'm just using the mouse to do that. Summary. The best practices delivery. You must be able to learn how to use the mouse to advance to the next slide and the likes. So if you think that using the mouse is cumbersome, then you use the keyboard's arrow keys or the navigation keys. The right one and the down one move to the next slide or the next animated item. Then the top and the left arrow keys, they move to the, or they move to previous slide or previous animated item. Then when you are presenting on a concept, try to avoid reading. Now if your slides, you load your slides very well, what you have to do is don't read it directly, you just lecture around it. Once you are reading directly, then now the learners can also read, so you lecture around it, then they listen. That's where you have a lengthy text on your slides. Then we will learn about this also, that screen, how to go about it. And when you try to do this, you like to let students' attention to begin in your presentation, and you know how to do that. B, then another B, you come back. So take down notes whatever you are not able to comprehend. So we are almost ending this presentation. Move on, have the bibliography. Now take note of these items, and I'm going to create a journal that you answer these questions. Just go there, the quiz 1, that's the quiz item 1. PowerPoint is not a word processing software, true or false? So answer it down. Then you write question 1, is it true or false? And because you are not interacting with it, if I click on any of them, it will tell you whether the answer is correct or not. I want you to answer, and you put your answer in the journal that is going to be set up for you after viewing this presentation. Then the second one is, which is the shortcut key to start a presentation from the beginning? F5. It should be Alt plus F5, so that is it. Control plus F5, then Shift plus F5. So write your answer down and go to the journal and put your answer there. I just need the answer. If it is Shift plus F5, just write Shift plus F5. If it is true or false, just if it is false, you just go there, put it false. Question 1, false. Question 2, Control plus F5. Then the last one, which of the following will not advance the slides in a slideshow view? So the same thing, write it down and go to the journal and put your answer there. So if it is the escape key, write it down right now, because either you come back and watch the video and answer them, that can also be a case. Thank you very much. If you have any kind of thing or suggestion, you can put it at the comment block, or you can send me a message and the likes. Thank you, and I hope to see you next week.